Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is April the 23rd, 2025. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Hopefully, you've had a good Wednesday, a good hump day, if you will. Hopefully, you humped and you didn't get humped. Unless you're into that, by all means, I don't yuck your yum. My day was solid. We went to work. Work was good. No complaints, no problems there. After work, we went to the old gym, the old Planet Fitness. I would say that once again, it was a little bit lighter on the weight training. This was more intentional this time, just because I had a little bit of pain in my side, like kind of towards like the back area, and I couldn't quite like figure out what that was from, specifically. So I said, okay, I know I want to go a little bit harder, a little bit heavier this weekend. So let's maybe take today, maybe take tomorrow as like maintenance days. I'm really trying to stick to the script, y'all. So we came in, did a little bit less weight, instead of like the 45s we were working with the 35s. And that went well. It's always strange to me because I generally will go in every day and do something that's generally about the same. And, a lot of times you can kind of notice like, okay, well, I'm really sweaty. I feel really active on this, session. But then you do the exact same thing the next day. And sometimes you're just not, and it's like, that's strange. And it's weird when like you have a day where you felt like you went harder but it didn't feel like you didn't sweat as much, and then like on a day like today where I went lighter, I was sweating more. I'm like, that's so strange. It's so odd. I'm sure there's a lot of factors at play for that, but it's neither here nor there. Overall, the pump went well, cardio went well, so we love to see it. So yeah, I mean that more or less equals a good day. I felt like my body was good, my mind was good, so we love to see it. Let's see. Is there anything else in the personal news? No, I do want to apologize again, though, for the kerfuffle for the last episode or two, part one, part two. Made a little mistake, a little oopsie daisy, but I figured, hey, let's just run it. Let's just get this news out. That is my goal every week, every day. So, thank you for bearing with me on that. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and we'll get into some news. Ooh. Ooh, yeah. Okay, from Reuters. India downgrades ties with Pakistan after attack on Kashmir. Tourist kills 26. Excuse me. India announced a raft of measures to downgrade its ties with Pakistan on Wednesday, a day after suspected militants killed 26 men at a tourist destination in Kashmir in the worst attack on civilians in the country in nearly 2 decades. Diplomatic ties between the nuclear armed South Asian neighbors were weak even before the latest measures were announced, as Pakistan had expelled India's envoy and not posted its own ambassador in New Delhi after India revoked the special status of Kashmir in 2019. Pakistan had also halted its main train service to India and banned Indian films, seeking to exert diplomatic pressure. Tuesday's attack is seen as a setback to what Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party, or the BJP, have projected as a major achievement in revoking the semi-autonomous status Jammu and Kashmir enjoyed, and bringing peace and development to the long troubled Muslim majority region. On Wednesday, Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri told a media briefing that the cross-border involvement in the Kashmir attack was underscored at a special security cabinet meeting, prompting it to act against Pakistan. He said New Delhi would immediately suspend the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. Now, it's worth noting, they get to this later in the article, that more or less Pakistan has said, hey, we are not like backing these, these groups, this, insurgency with any kind of financial and military support. But it seems like they are more or less like cheering them on, like morally. So I don't know if that sounds good when you say it out loud in a statement. I think that still kind of, upsets people and probably angers people. So, that is part of it. The treaty, mediated by the World Bank, splits the Indus River and its tributaries between the neighbors and regulated the sharing of water. It had so far withstood even wars between the neighbors. Pakistan is heavily dependent on water flowing downstream from this river system from Indian Kashmir for its hydropower and irrigation needs. Suspending the treaty would allow India to deny Pakistan its share of the waters. India also closed the only open land border crossing point between the two countries and said that those who have crossed into India can return through the point before May 1st. With no direct flights operating the two countries, the move severs all transport links between them. Pakistani nationals will not be permitted to travel to India under special South Asian visas, all such existing visas were canceled, and Pakistanis in India under such visas had 48 hours to leave, Misri said. All defense advisors in the Pakistani mission in New Delhi were declared persona non grata and given a week to leave. India will pull out its own defense advisors in Pakistan and also reduce staff size at its mission in Islamabad from 30 to 55, Misri said. The CCS reviewed the overall, or 230 from 55. I was like, that sounded weird coming out of my mouth. The CCS reviewed the overall security situation and directed all forces to maintain high vigil. Oh, what? Oh my, sorry, y'all. I just realized that I can touch my computer screen and it scrolls up and down. Holy, oh, technology. Okay, hold up. That was a development. My bad. Mea culpa. It resolved what the perpetrators of the attack will be brought to justice and their sponsors held to account. India will be unrelenting in the pursuit of those who have committed acts of terrorism or act of terror or conspired to make them possible, he said. There was no immediate response to the Indian announcement from Pakistan's Foreign Office. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has called a meeting of the National Security Committee on Thursday morning to respond to the Indian government statement. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar posted on X. Let's scroll ahead here. India's response came a day after the attack in the Baisarian Valley in Pahalgam area of the scenic Himalayan federal territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The region has been at the heart of Indian and Pakistan animosity for years and the site of multiple wars, insurgency, and diplomatic standoffs. The dead included 25 Indians and one Nepalese national, and at least 17 people were also injured in the shooting that took place on Tuesday. It was the worst attack on civilians in India since the 2008 Mumbai shootings and shattered the relative calm in Kashmir, where tourism has boomed as an anti-India insurgency has waned in recent years. A little-known group, the Kashmir Resistance, claimed responsibility for the attack on social media message. It expressed discontent that more than 85,000 outsiders have been settled in the region, spurring a diplomatic change. The Indian security agencies say Kashmir Resistance, also known as the Resistance Front, is a front for Pakistan-based militant organizations such as Lashkar-e-Taiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. Pakistan denies accusations that it supports militant violence in Kashmir and says it only provides moral, political, and diplomatic support to the insurgency there. So you see what I'm saying from earlier, where it's just like, Yeah, dog, that doesn't sound good when you make that statement. Like, yeah, we're not backing them, but we're just like cheering them on. We got our pom poms out. Like, okay, but maybe you might be because you're saying that out loud. Once again, that's a little bit of speculation out there. There you go. Anyway, we are concerned at the loss of tourist lives. Pakistani Foreign Ministry spokesperson Shafat Ali Khan said in a statement earlier on Wednesday, "We extend our condolences to the near ones of the deceased and wish the injured a speedy recovery." I mean, there's a little bit more to read here, but we'll go ahead and just call this covered. This felt like a very major development between India and Pakistan relations. Obviously, very unfortunate that so many people lost their lives in this situation. I don't really know of any like what good is going to come of it. I mean, the aftermath seems not good. There is one part I do want to mention. In Kashmir, security forces rushed to the Pahalgam area and began combing the forest there in search of the attackers. So they put sketches out. They're still on the hunt, the search, but they haven't found anyone who actually, did the terrorism, at least to my knowledge, per this recording. So yeah, big development. We will definitely, stay abreast of anything that comes out of India or Pakistan in the coming days or weeks. But yeah, we wanted to start there. I felt like I needed to read most of that because it did touch on a couple of little historic bits and key details. So, I mean, we've talked about these places individually, but I really haven't talked about any of their relations. And I really don't know that much, if I'm being honest. I got to listen to a podcast that briefly touched on it a little bit, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. It's definitely, I can see there's a rich amount of history here, and there's a lot of conflict that's gone on, throughout the years, the decades. So yeah. That is where we started. The rest of this episode, I want to say, is a little bit lighter, though. I mean, we're talking natural disasters. From ABC News, New Jersey wildfire explodes to 12,500 acres. Could be largest in 20 years. Big fire in New Jersey. I don't know what that accent is. I just wanted to do it. A wildfire in New Jersey has exploded to 12,500 acres after igniting Tuesday in Ocean County and threatening more than 1,000 structures, shutting down a major highway and causing thousands of people to flee the flames. By Wednesday afternoon, officials said firefighters were gaining the upper hand on the blaze. The Jones Road wildfire was 40% contained as of 4 p.m. Eastern Time, according to New Jersey Forest Fire Service officials. Sean LaTourette, I'm sure I'm getting the name wrong, New Jersey's Commissioner of Environmental Protection, said fire officials expect the blaze to grow and that it could turn out to be the largest wildfire in New Jersey in 20 years. Now, there's been no injuries, so that's the good news. That's a silver lining, at least as of right now. So no injuries, no deaths, no casualties. So we do love that. But definitely some property damage, definitely, some fear because you just don't know what's going to happen here. You got to pack up all your stuff and get out of the area in these situations. Let's see here. In terms of what the cause was, I don't think we know as of right now. Let's see here. We do know when it started, though. The fire exploded overnight to 8,500 acres and at one point jumped the Garden State Parkway, bringing one of New Jersey's busiest roads to a halt. At one point, the fire threatened more than 1,000 homes, officials said. But firefighters were able to head off the fire, battling it with crews on the ground and aircraft making water drops, officials said. So, I mean, there's some more details here, of course. If we have any more details, any more, major updates, I'll come back to this. We'll be back in Jersey talking about the fire. But yeah, definitely a bummer, but at least the good news is no fatalities, at least as of right now. So we love that. Let's see. Our last major bit of news that I wanted to cover, though we're going to hold off on the last break because I have a little bit extra. It's coming from the Associated Press. A magnitude 6.2 quake shakes Istanbul and injures more than 230 people. An earthquake with an earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.2 shook Istanbul and other areas of Turkey on Wednesday, prompting widespread panic and scores of injuries in the city of 16 million people, though there were no immediate reports of serious damage. At least 236 people were treated for injuries they suffered while trying to jump from buildings or from panic attacks, most of them in Istanbul, where residents are on tenterhooks. I love that word, but I always want to say tenterhooks, you know what I mean? Because that's just like what your head thinks it is, maybe. I don't know, anyway. Because the city is considered at high risk for a major quake. The earthquake had a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, or 6 miles, about 6 miles, according to the United States Geological Survey, with its epicenter about 40 kilometers, 25 miles southwest of Istanbul, in the Sea of Marmara. Let's see. It was felt in the neighborhood provinces of Tekirdağ, Yalova, Bursa, and Balıkesir, and in the coastal city of Izmir, some 550 kilometers or 340 miles south of Istanbul. Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said the earthquake lasted 13 seconds and was followed by more than 100 aftershocks, the strongest measuring 5.9 in magnitude. So that's a good example too of, like, you know, once again, how the aftershocks work. I always try to mention this whenever we talk about earthquakes, is that yes, there's that big one, but then you never know how many aftershocks and how long it's going to be in terms of the intervals in between all of them. So that's always a dangerous thing that can ratchet up the problem of the natural disaster like an earthquake. Let's see here. The quake started at 12:49 p.m. Wednesday, a public holiday, when many children were out of school and celebrating in the streets of Istanbul. Panicked residents rushed from their homes and buildings into the streets. Authorities urged residents to avoid entering buildings that might have been damaged and said sports halls and mosques would be open to residents not wanting to spend the night in their homes. So right now you have a lot of people camped outside, hanging out, because at the end of the day, most buildings are not safe right now in that area. So let's see here. I did want to highlight the one biggest structural damage. Only one building, at least so far, a derelict, long abandoned structure in the city's historic Faith District had collapsed, officials said. So, I mean, obviously as scary, tenuous as this is, flashing back to February 2023, that was maybe the first time we covered a big earthquake on this podcast from Turkey. That was very massive, very devastating, and comparatively, this is not as bad. So that's good. We'll take that. Once again, Silver Linings Playbook there. Also, another thing I wanted to touch on, because we really haven't mentioned it. Yeah, but referencing that earthquake, killed more than 53,000 people in Turkey and destroyed or damaged hundreds of thousands of buildings in 11 southern and southeastern provinces. Another 6,000 people were killed in the northern parts of neighboring Syria. So that was the earthquake that took place February 6th on 2023. And the one we're talking about today was 6.2. That one was 7.8. So, I mean, that is a big difference. Don't get me wrong. But once again, the response is seemingly good. The damage doesn't seem to be as bad. So, hey, we'll take that. But I did want to do a little bit of update because we really haven't talked about this since it initially popped off. And, time has definitely passed in between. Ekrem İmamoğlu, which I think I've said that name better this time. Imamoglu? We're going to get Imamoglu. Ekrem İmamoğlu. The mayor of Istanbul, who was jailed last month on corruption charges, released a statement through his lawyers expressing his sadness at not being able to be with the city's residents. As managers and urban planners who have dedicated their lives to disaster-focused planning in Istanbul and who have struggled for this purpose, my greatest sadness is that we can't be with you. Now, he is a rival to Erdogan, that's been an ongoing thing. He is still, his, I think his degree or whatever has been suspended or revoked, and then he's also been arrested. He's still in prison. So that's obviously very tenuous. That's Erdogan, exercising his power on the situation, essentially putting his fingers on the scale. Something I haven't mentioned that's been going on, though, this whole time is that people have been out protesting. I don't know if that is as deep, as big, the numbers and whatnot, but I do know that even journalists have been arrested and, are facing trial for essentially just being out and covering the story. And like the defense from law enforcement, when they did it, they're like, well, we didn't know and we weren't 100% sure that they were journalists, even though I'm very sure that it was very apparent that they're journalists. And that's probably a big reason why they were apprehended in the first place. So it's definitely a shame that you just see in either subtle ways or major ways how Erdogan is still controlling the situation, even though this is supposed to be a fucking democracy, even though he's going for like infinite rule. It sure doesn't seem or feel like a democracy, but hey, I mean, they're our allies and we don't really seem to give a fuck about that. But yeah. That's neither here nor there. We initially started this for the earthquake. We're technically in the weeds here, but I did feel the need to talk about this shit. I haven't talked about it in a while. I didn't want it to like completely fall by the wayside and be forgotten. So I said, hey, let's take this time to yap a little bit more about that. So that's all covered. Now let's go ahead and get to the closing stage. Let's go ahead and take our last break. I'm gonna take a water break, and we're just gonna kind of do a little bit of headline hunting and just talk a little bit on a few things that I'm just seeing that I don't really feel are necessarily major yet, but worth mentioning. I guess we can call it that way, and then we'll just call it an episode after that. All right, reading a headline from the AP News. Trump says Zelensky is prolonging war in Ukraine by resisting calls to cede Crimea to Russia. So, post the Easter truce, more or less, both sides went right back at it. Both sides also accused the other of not obeying the ceasefire in the first place. I felt like that was worth mentioning. There were supposed to be talks, I believe, in London, maybe somewhere in the UK. I think it was London, though. But they got downgraded. I think more or less because the U.S. is saying, oh, if you guys aren't going to come to a deal, then we're leaving. We're leaving this conversation. Y'all on your own. And it seems like just like kind of how he was doing in the beginning of, his term and coming into this situation, he is blaming Zelensky as much as he can and saying nothing about how this is Putin and the goddamn Kremlin's fault. Like, there's no blame or onus on them. It is only over whatever he can say, oh, Zelensky's not doing exactly everything the way that I think he should. So he's holding this up. He's holding up peace. He doesn't want it bad enough. So, I mean, that's odd. That's weird. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised about it. Let's see here. What else did I really want to pull? There's more talk about the Pope. The Pope has taken up so much oxygen. And, like, don't get me wrong. I understand. I get it. He's the Pope. If you're any kind of Catholic or whatever, maybe if you're like pretty religious, you're like, oh, I really care about this shit. And like overall, a lot of people are like, yeah, Pope was a good guy. He did a lot of good stuff. He like called Gaza and he was trying to keep up with like the Christian community in there and stuff. He was doing the best he could. He was a cool dude. Whatever. I don't care. I've said my 2 cents about it. I only really want to cover the end game of this situation. So I mean, right now, I think there's viewings or whatever. We're getting in the conversation of like, hey, who's gonna be the next pope? We're starting that. So I mean, that's all a thing. That's all a vibe. Let's see. Let's move on to some other stuff. There was 12 states are suing the Trump administration over tax hikes through tariffs. You can grab that from CNN if you want to read more about that. We'll see how that goes. They got Letitia James on the thing for CNN on the thumbnail. She is the Attorney General of New York, so she's involved. They're involved. And I mean, hey, we love to see the Trump administration under fire in any kind of way, especially legal fire. We love some legal, what is it? Legal fare? Lawfare? Lawfare. I love that word. That's like lethal aid. I love that. Technically, lawfare is even better because, like, technically no one dies under lawfare. You just make their lives, like, miserable and maybe they want to die. So that's fun. That's cool. That's really cute stuff. A lot of people are telling are anticipating that Hexeth is going to lose his job, which I hope. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope he doesn't go any kind of distance, and that this is the second signal is what got him. I would love that. We'll see. And then there's whispers of the Trump administration potentially slashing tariffs on China because it's just too hot. It's just too hot. The block is too hot. So they're kind of, putting out some soft statements saying that maybe there might be some deals in the future in the works, which is helping the stock market. So that's good. But it's like, once again, this administration, Trump is the reason we're in this fucking mess. Like, we started the trade war. Why? Like, we're still trying to figure out what was the real game. Were we trying to drop the dollar? Were we trying to get everyone against China? Is it like a little bit of column A, column B? Like, are there more motives? Is it just the plain motive of like, we need to build in America, which is like a stupid, dumb, fucking pipe dream that like almost every economist, any person with a fucking brain on the issue is saying, yeah, you shouldn't do that. It won't work. Industrialization is dead here. Like, no one wants to do that. The kids do not yearn for the fucking manufacturing line, okay? Like, come on, dude. It's very it's almost comical at this point if it wasn't like, hey, your groceries and shit weren't on the line. Fucking your next car purchase, you know what I mean? Like, so I hope that we can really walk back from the brink here. I hope the Trump administration fucking does that, but who knows? Who fucking knows? But needless to say, I'm sure there's some more stories out there, but we'll leave it there. We're going to call that the episode for today. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Or IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Did I say that? Okay, I said that time. Let's see. Feel free to follow me on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube. That's really helpful. Follow me on TikTok. Let's see here. What else can you do? You can follow me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Excuse me, I burped into your ear. My bad. But that really helps out the effort, boosts the algorithm. It keeps you up with the Joneses, all that. Leave a like, leave a comment, sharing is caring if you'd like to. But once again, I just appreciate you listening, just hanging out with me. It's always nice. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.